Oh, I think our subscribers have gone up. Cool, cool, cool. Woo! Okay. We can figure out something. Oh, hey. Uh, I'm gonna have to disagree.
I had my mic off. No
Ryan?
one heard me. Ha ha ha. We're back. We're back to normal. We're already starting good. Welcome everyone. Welcome to Still Digging. I have to check our run sheet because we have two shows tonight that we're doing. But I was also observing the fact that we have two Toms right now. Let me try something. All right, let's do this. Let's refresh Tom. Okay.
Okay. I'm also hearing the stream audio through the call. But
You should not be able to do that. Okay, Tom, I'm going to make you disappear for a second and bring you back.
okay.
Well, why are you still here? Okay, well that
Should I
solved
call
part of
back?
the problem. No, because you're still here.
Hmm.
Are you able to hear the other? Or is it still having the same problems before, or did that kind of get fixed as well?
Sorry. I'm hearing everything. Yeah, I'm hearing everything a whole bunch of times.
All right. Are you listening? Is your speaker on your? If you're monitoring the feed, Do you have the speakers on? Do you have the volume on? Or are they muted?
No. I just actually closed. It's muted.
And you still have the echo?
Yeah, and I closed the window earlier, and it was.
See,
Yeah.
you see, some of you folks might have said, "Hey, maybe want to watch the debate tonight. It's starting right now. Maybe watch a little Bernie action or something." But no, you get to come here and watch technical difficulties, which is our specialty. Okay, let me try this. All right, you're gone. Okay, Tom, I'm going to bring you back. Could swear this all worked in our pre-production meeting. Are you still hearing echoes?
Yeah.
I have no idea, and I haven't even had a chance to even check the stream to see if our patient audience is also hearing echoes or not. Okay. Stream. See if our patient audience is also hearing echoes or not.
There were 3 people watching, and now there are 2 people watching.
Stream. See if our patient audience is also hearing echoes or not.
There were 3 people watching, and now there are 2 people watching. It's quieter now.
Yeah, but there's something definitely coming through on your side. Like, your side is broadcasting my signal, and that shouldn't be happening. And that was never happening before. Okay.
Hello, Lucas.
Hang up and call back in. I will read
Okay.
the. Yes, Lucas, we are. Hi, guy there. We are on brand with our beginning of the podcast. Technical difficulties. Tom's going to go away for a second and come back, and we'll see if this it clears itself up. In the meantime, I'll read over my scripted introduction to the show. I'll read over my scripted so that, hello and welcome to Still Digging, a show where a panel of archaeologists discuss the world of archaeology, presented by the Archeo RPG Collective. I'm your host, Bill, and the panel will include, hopefully, Amma, Sarah, and Tom. I think Tom's back. Today, we're going to talk about Amma's summer vacation, if she can manage to join the call, poop knives, Tom's interactions with Scott Walter, and I will talk about our news show, which will be debuting at the top of this hour, Rituals and Rolls Recaps. So, let's dig in. So, Amma, how was your summer vacation? Hey, Tom.
I don't. What? Oh, are you talking? Sorry.
Oh, well, I was also talking to you, but you had a look in your face like you might have still been. So, is the echo cleared up now?
No.
Okay, and it is also managing to get broadcasted out, and I'm not sure.
I don't know how to.
Okay, now how about now? Is the echo going away now?
Take a sec. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
I don't. I can't. No, I can still hear it.
We're not monitoring. Oh, hold on.
Any experts out there? Nope. Do
It
I
should
have
be gone. It should be gone now, right? It's gone now, right? Tom. Can you just not hear me now at all? Or Tom is frozen. Tom, you're frozen on the call. Hang up and call again. I am very sorry about this. I know everyone is anxious to get to poop knives, which is what we want to get to first. We want to start this off with a bang with our first sort of abbreviated hour show, and technical difficulties aren't going to help us get to that below an hour show routine. So, what are we going to do in the intro? Well, we're going to play around with making phone calls. We're going to make some crank calls. We're going to say, hey, losers. I'm going to look for new host, new co-host. I'm going to blame them, of course. Technical difficulties are probably all my fault. I know they're all my fault. But that doesn't do me any good. So I'm going to blame everybody else. So... Oh, is that someone has come through? Okay. So while I'm ringing the group... Oh. Hello. Nope. So while I'm ringing a group, let me go ahead and talk about poop. So, earlier this week, the Journal of Archaeological Science Reports through Science Direct published an article by archaeologists and other scientists from Kent State University and the Cleveland Museum of Natural History in Cleveland, Ohio. And it got our attention because... Hello, Tom. Hi.
Hey.
Okay, good. Yes. Let me keep going.
Okay.
All right. So
I'm no longer hearing an echo.
Great. So the title of this article, which drew our attention, I mean, we are all professional archaeologists, so we're going to be scouring the academic journals all the time anyway to sort of help improve our knowledge. But this particular
how we share
one
secrets with each other
caught our eyes. I mean, it's just sharing of information. It's how we grow as a field. This one, though, happened to catch our eye. It was entitled, Experimental Replication Shows Knives Manufactured from Frozen Human Feces Do Not Work. Now, you may not understand with the technical jargon there, but they're talking poop knives.
Mm-hmm. Can we talk about what thought process had to happen in order to choose to do this experiment? Like, the conversation had to go something along the lines of, hey, have you heard this story about poop knives? Yeah, sounds pretty dumb. We should check it out anyway. Can you poop in this bag? Like...
And where the story comes from is that there's an ethnography published in 1998 by a Davis. I don't have his first name immediately in front of me. And it's called The Shadows in the Sun, and it's an ethnographic study of Inuit people up in the Arctic region. And to quote, the quote they used here to sort of like, this is the apocryphal story which sort of leads to the whole poop knife. There's a well-known account, to quote, I'm sorry, quoting. There's a well-known account of an old Inuit man who refused to move into a settlement. Over the objections of his family, he made plans to stay on the ice. To stop him, they took away all his tools. So in the midst of a winter gale, he stepped out of their igloo, defecated, and honed the feces into a frozen blade, which he sharpened with a spray of saliva. With the knife, he killed a dog and used its rib cage as a sled and its hide to harness another dog. He disappeared into the darkness. End quote.
There are so many parts of that story.
You're trying to say the story maybe doesn't smell right?
It's No, that's it sounds allegorical if it sounds like anything. But it sounds like um it sounds like um it sounds like a made up story to make the person feel sound foolish. Are you hold on.
Well, yes. There that was definitely one of
It's
the early concerns.
are you familiar with the term codology?
No, I am not. Continue
So
to
this is
elaborate.
it's it's like shenanigans. It's an Irish colloquialism um that it's basically it's like the art of bluffing, if that makes sense,
Yes. Now, to be fair,
right?
Davis himself, in his ethnography, accounts for the fact that this
Hmm.
was most likely an apocryphal tale. Um,
Yeah.
and because this was about a woman he was interviewing, and was about her grandfather, and allegedly this story took place in the 1950s, so 40, 50 years prior to this interview. So there's definitely that you have all the classic markers. It's someone happened to my family, but they're not here now, and it happened a couple generations ago. It's sort of how a lot of stories begin. But for some reason, it had become sort of a popular, I guess, among certain fans of ethnographies and anthropological undergrads over the past 20 years.
Well, sure.
Um,
Like Malinowski's journals.
yeah, so that's what drew it to the attention of these folks. Now, I have not checked anyone's sort of credentials. Um,
I mean, it's polished. It's
to
polished.
be fair, no one is
It's
listed as a PhD in the thing on here. So these may be undergrads. I
but
would
they
need to
got it.
confirm that.
What's
It'd be
the journal it's published in again?
um, the Journal of Archaeological Science reports.
Huh.
It's published by Elsevier, Elsevier, and I think I've heard of that before.
Wasn't that the one that they were having issues with like there was some sort of corruption issues with aggressive citing on things or something?
I am not
Hold on.
sure.
Or maybe that's
But yeah, I
something
mean, yes. So
else.
this is the classic. I mean, if we were talking about, if we want to like venture into the world of how to identify and deal with like things like pseudoscience, or how to read an academic journal, the first thing you should do is, just because it's from an academic journal, don't necessarily take it at face value. You can check to see the credentials of this journal. Is it a peer reviewed journal? We don't know. Um, we don't know if this article has been peer reviewed. I highly doubt it, because the article itself is only a one and three quarters page for the total length of this article.
Huh. Well, I mean, they didn't have a lot of data to go with since none of their poop knives worked.
But I know what you may be thinking right now. Yeah, poop knives, apocryphal story. But you're telling me these fools actually tried to make them. How the hell did they
Hmm.
do that? I'm glad you asked, Lucas, because you're the only person I think watching at the moment. But many people will be listening to this, and I also mean you too, that listening in your car
Later
later.
listeners.
Hey, we get plenty of later listeners,
Yeah. Future fans.
future fans.
Yeah.
So, one of the team. Once again, I mean, it's so small. I might as well just go ahead and quote from these things, because they do a better job than I do. So, once again, this is a quote
Don't lie,
directly
Lucas. We know you want to know.
from the article here. Quote: in order to procure the necessary raw material for knife production, one of us, MIE, that's the initials of one of the party, one of the team, went on a diet of high protein and fatty acids, which is consistent with Arctic diets for 8 days. And they cite Binford from 2012 and Fugagali from 2015, citing table S1 as supplementary materials. So, continue the quote. The Inuit do not only eat meat from maritime and terrestrial animals, and there were 3 instances during the 8-day diet that MIE ate fruit, vegetables, or carbohydrates. Raw material collected did not begin until day 4, and then proceeded regularly for the next 5 days. Fecal samples were formed into knives using ceramic molds, knife molds, or molded by hand-shaped knives. All fecal samples were stored at minus 20 Celsius until the experiment began. Okay, another thing that's got my skeptical eye here on my second reading after I finished giggling, the language they're using. That's not journal language.
This feels like one
this
of
is
those
freshman.
ones that
This is undergrad goof
yeah.
paper. Now they may have done these
Here's a
experiments.
question. Here's a question though, because there was a group out there that was like actively getting fake articles published to show how some journals' peer review process is very shaky.
Right. Now, here we could start off with this. You could look up whether Shadows in the Sun by A. W. Davis travels to landscape. Shadows in the Sun by W. Davis, 1998, Island Press, Washington, D.C.
Yep.
It
Travels to landscape of spirit and desire.
Okay.
Um,
See, we're doing live science for you here. As we're doing inspections and peer reviews, and the skeptical eye is now in full focus for this. So, while Tom does a little more of our background research, I'm going to continue sort of explaining how they went about their test. So they now have poop knives. And so how are they testing these poop knives? So what they do is procure some pig hide, some pig muscle, and tendon. These were also stored at minus 20 degrees until 2 days before the experiment began, at which they were allowed to begin to thaw up to 4 degrees Celsius. Minutes prior to the experiment, both the knife molds samples and the hand-shaped knives were removed from the laboratory freezer and further sharpened with a metal file. The knives were then buried for several minutes in minus 50-degree dry ice to ensure that they were sufficiently frozen until any attempts at slicing. And if you're wondering about the health about this, the study was approved by the Institutional Biosafety Committee at Kent State University. Kent State, you get a shout out for that. So for anyone from Kent State who's watching or listening to us later, you're following safety protocols and we appreciate that. So, any new information before I go into the results?
So I found it. It's on page 20 of the Wade Davis book.
Okay.
And it did it have the part about sharpened with a spray of saliva?
Yes. I threw that in there. Yes, sharpened with spray of saliva with the knife he killed a dog.
Yep.
So,
Use his ribcage just sudden. Yeah. Okay.
So this is from a real book.
It's from a real book. I just wow. just wow.
Okay. That's also now reminding you that cultural anthropologists are the real crazy people. Apologies to all cultural anthropologists watching and listening right now.
Again, I cite Melanowski.
But you know it. You know it. All right. Enough suspense. Do we want to know if this worked? Well, one, I kind of told you when I read the title of the paper. But two, let's find out what happened. So, to continue our story, quote, we began our cutting experiment with the hide, reasoning that if our knives could not cut hide, then subsequent attempts with muscle and tendon would be futile. Neither the knife mold sample nor the hand-shaped knife could cut through the hide. Despite the hide being cold from refrigeration, instead of slicing through the knife the knife edge simply melted upon contact, leaving a streak of fecal matter.
Oh. Oh. Oh,
Remember,
wow.
Still Digging, the classiest archaeology show on the internet. Was it like 3-4 weeks ago we were doing the entire long pee discussion in the field?
The what?
Pee.
Oh, yeah.
Pee in the field,
The
yes.
long? Was that last week?
No. That's way back.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. No, okay. So
Yeah. Go.
here's my thing. So this is special poop, created from a diet of high protein, high fat, matching cultures in the north, right? Um, that's gotta smell. That's gotta have an odor to it, and there's no way there's no getting around that.
Well, I mean, the one thing, I mean, they're trying to, one, it was only 8 days. I don't know if that's enough to sort of alter your internal flora and fauna, which may also be another factoring element into it. And two, he wasn't eating seal. Seal itself may have special little properties that makes them sharp.
Yeah, that's right. I was just listening to what was it? The Dirt podcast, and they were talking about seal blood ceramic bowls. And they got on a little bit of a tangent about the seal blood, and apparently certain times a year you can actually use it as glue. It's so thick.
Yeah, so
Which is really impressive.
So if you have a diet which consists of that stuff and you're consuming that stuff, what does that do?
That's kind of
You like what? Yeah, what does seal blood do to your poo? I mean, who is answering these questions?
it might make it more solid.
we may need to do a follow-up experiment here at Still Digging.
You, on your own, bud. I don't want to have anything to do with
We would obviously stream it.
I don't think we can do that on YouTube.
It's for science.
I mean, sure, but
Why does YouTube
gross.
hate science? Huh?
I think YouTube hates poop. Most FCC regulations are kind of
Well, samples are of
Little-
course going to
little
be given
whippy
by
on
those
that.
who aren't here. It's kind of the
yeah. Good luck talking into that.
It's kind of the not it.
Sure,
Not it scenario.
sure. Well, I'm not making the knives either.
The hand-shaped ones. All right.
That is something.
But wait, we are not done yet.
We're not.
Because these are scientists here, all right? This was a single
Sure.
point. This was a single point of data. These were, you can't just go by single points of data. So, once again, to quote, we repeated the experiment using the fecal sample of another team member, MRB, whose diet was more traditionally Western. The hand-shaped knives were subject to the same procedures and temperatures as the first set of knives. However, these knives did not cut through the hide. For curiosity's sake, we tried to cut the subcutaneous flat on the underside of the hide. With some difficulty, only the shallowest of slices could be produced, and the knife edge still quickly melted and deteriorated.
Nope. I still can't get it's better science. They're trying different diets,
What?
but also still real gross.
So, in an unforeseen segue, or synergy, I should say, putting things together, this paper was presented at the SAA's, the Society of American
What?
Archaeology Conference, 2019, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Some archaeologists may remember this as being a total shit show.
Oh.
Ironically, there was a paper presented about poop knives.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm reading the
Wow.
acknowledgments, and they're like, yeah, they had like four people look at it and an anonymous reviewer. So I'm guessing this was a student paper. But still, if this really happened, and this was conceptualized by MIE. Let me identify MIE.
Who provided the first sample?
That is, well, I guess if you're going to lead this thing and bring up this entire idea together, you got to lead by example.
I mean,
You got to put the poop
yeah,
in the bag. All right. It's one thing to
and
talk the
hand shape
talk.
it.
It's one thing to talk the talk,
Ugh.
but you also got to put the
Oh
poop in the
God,
bag.
it's so bad. It's so bad.
So these this
We could
this
we could
this
use this peer-reviewed paper to discuss the peer review process and segue into segment two. Wow. Poop. That's a lot. It's a lot. That's a lot.
it's
That's
sort
a
of
lot.
it's sort of stacking up and it's sort of rising.
Oh,
It's getting uncomfortable to walk in it right now.
yeah. Yeah, it's gross.
But you know what? We're archaeologists, so we can definitely tell the difference between the poo and the shinola.
The what?
You never heard of that phrase? Can't tell the
No.
difference between shit and shinola?
No.
Shinola is a type of polish, shoe polish, popular in the early 20th century.
Ah.
Oh yeah, and mind you, this is also we should have said this at the very beginning. This is not the kind of poop knife most people would be familiar with. I'm sure either people watching or people watching later or listening. So like, wait a minute, I remember having a poop knife. I've had a poop knife at camp. My grandma had a poop knife. You know, and this is a classic instrument, improvised instrument. I should put it. It's sort of those, you know, secondary uses of material culture that's very important to the archaeological record. Say you're in a place where the plumbing isn't so great, and
Oh.
say you're on a really good high fiber diet.
Hmm.
Sometimes it just ain't going to go down the hole. So that's when you grab the old poop knife and you cut it up so it can go down the hole. I've heard this story a few times from a few different people about the old poop
I have
knife.
I have also I have also heard of this before. It's not
Yes.
usually actually a knife though. It's like a
It could be a
stick or
stick
something.
or times, but
Yeah.
still, it's a non-intended, it's an improvised use of material
Right.
to do something like this. So that's also another thing to remember about archaeology. Even when you think you know what it is, when you pulled it out of the ground, that may have not have been what the actual use those people have had for them. Obviously, plenty of those types of things.
Yeah.
Glassware being reframed for cut as a cutting instrument.
Sure.
Bullets being used as toy pieces, game pieces,
Sure.
and things
Yeah.
like that. Trying to think of any other good
Powerful.
examples
Yeah.
off the top of my head of sort of secondary uses.
Trying to think if I've got anything good. that
Well, I mean, a
uh,
classic modern one would be the Pringle can used as a speaker. You cut the hole in it so you can put your phone in
oh
there
yeah.
and have a speaker
Yep.
comes out.
Yep.
That's a classic
That was a
case
good
of
one.
secondary reuse of a
Yeah.
material. So
Mm.
it's something humans have always done
Mhm.
for that.
Money pendants.
Well, yeah, the use of coins is different types of things. So yeah,
Mm.
all sorts of cool stuff now. So yeah, we're about halfway through. We burned through 2 segments, but that's fine. So now that we've honed our skeptical eye a little bit now, um, and this has nothing to do with poo whatsoever. Um, Recently, Tom and I had some interactions over Twitter with a History Channel 2 Travel Channel celebrity. But I will let Tom sort of carry the story and I'll just fill in where I can help.
Okay. So, hmm. if you are, if you follow me on Twitter or Bill, we have both on a couple of occasions had interactions with Mr. Scott Walter of America Unearthed fame, or is it Unearthed America, America Unearthed,
I think it's America Unearthed.
America Unearthed, um, and he has a pretty and Sarah as well, actually. That they
But
okay.
she's been
He
blocked
has a
now.
very he has a very devoted following. It's probably a good way to put it. His fans are very mm, they're very entrenched in his theories, and questioning those theories does not win you any points with them. As Sarah found out, and I think some of that also is, and I mean it sucks, but it's the truth. Is probably because she's a woman, and the perception of her as an expert in anything is turned down because of misogyny being just rampant in anonymous uh, comment sections, essentially. Um, but so Mr. Walter and I got into it the first time. He said some rather he made some rather questionable statements regarding the existence slash survival of certain Native American groups in the uh, upper Midwest. And we had a long discussion about Vikings and Templars and the Kensington Runestone and a number of other related topics. And Mr. Walter has published several books on these topics. Bill just finished reading. What was the name of yours?
Akhenaten,
Akhenaten.
Akhenaten, and
Akhenaten,
the Akhenaten
the
to the
founding
Holy
father.
Grail, about the founding fathers. Um,
Yeah.
it's basically, I mean, so the general thesis that um, Scott Walter uses is that the Kensington Runestone, a stone tablet presumably discovered in the late 19th century, 1898, in Kensington,
Mhm.
Minnesota,
Yep.
is a material that contains Swedish ruins, uh,
Norwegian.
Norwegian, sorry, wrong Scandinavian
Mhm.
country, Norwegian ruins, which happen to, but also include coded language associated with the Templars. And also, additionally, this tablet also has a date on it of 1362 or 72.
62 sounds right. I haven't actually looked at the inscription
I
on
think,
it. I
yeah,
so we got into another discussion about this. What was I don't remember what the impetus of it was, but I had been asked. He did this technical report on the stone, petrography. It's a real thing. To analyze, or no, what was it petrographic?
it's
Was it
photography.
petrographic analysis?
It's
Yeah, it was
photography. It's
petrographic analysis of the inscription to determine the age of the inscription itself. So the actual carved runes on the stones. And he did this technical report. It's not actually published anywhere. It is the results of it are supposed to be published in the book. It's Kensington Runestone, compelling new evidence by, hold on, I got
Scott
the,
and some.
yes, Scott Walter and I want to say Richard Nielsen in 2006. Let me pull it up real quick. Um, yeah, Richard Nielsen and Scott Walter, and it was published in 2006 by Scott's publishing company. the was it Lake Superior Agate Publishing Company
Right.
or Inc. Something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and it is supposed to be the most comprehensive study of the evidence surrounding the stone. Um, I had to explain to Scott that having your colleagues review your paper is not the same as the peer review process. If you're not familiar with the peer review process, you submit a paper in a format for a journal. The journal then um, sends that paper to anonymous readers to give comments before publishing the paper. If a consensus can be reached regarding the edition of the paper, it gets published.
As
Um,
as a
and
reminder, the
yeah,
poop paper we were just talking about had one anonymous reviewer, so at least that even followed
yeah,
a little bit more of the scientific process.
right. And in hard sciences like geology, it's even more serious. And Scott actually is a professional geologist. He has a company that has petrographic services, and he is a forensic geologist. So a geologist who does offer or is a consultant for insurance investigations and things like that, identifying materials and wear and things like that. Um, but there are parts. Uh, there are
So,
parts of the theory that are, let's go with, questionable.
well, I think the biggest problem is demonstrating that petrography, which is basically looking at sort of the microscopic components of rocks. Rocks are never really, for the most part, a single material. There's some sort of concretion of multiple materials included. The most obvious and easiest ones for most people to see are things like sandstone. You can see it has sand particles and other particles of other little rocks, tiny rocks in it. But other stones have that too, but they're just a smaller size and maybe not necessarily visible to the naked eye. So with the photography is that they can sort of look at those materials, and it helps with identifications like sourcing. He's done a lot of material in sort of concrete. So knowing what the full stone materials of a sort of concrete is can maybe give you some good idea in terms of the stability, especially if you're after a
Right.
structural failure or something like that. You could
Right.
understand, you know, how it's, what maybe was inside the material that maybe weakened it or strengthened it. What hasn't been really seen, and I've tried to like do sort of Google Scholar searching on this type of material or just general Scholar searching, is the use of this technology, use of this idea for temporal purposes, for the purposes of telling time. That is
So,
a that was where I would initially think of, but that wasn't my interaction with him though. I had a different issue with him.
yeah. Um, but I mean there's good science there for relative dating two objects. If you have a inscription of the same material with a known date attached to it, and then you can compare those two and see if there is more or less wear on it, and they're in similar, or, maybe not identical, but at least similar environments, and exposed to the same kind of wear, you can then say, yes, this is older, or newer or older
Right.
than the known date or whatever. The one that keeps getting brought up though, or the he keeps saying that the Kensington runestone is not an archaeological question, and then he listed all of the like interdisciplinary things that archaeology does. So it was a linguistic and inscriptions and geology and history and something else, and said that's not archaeology, which is exactly what archaeology is. And that is the thing that I had the most issue with. And this is not the first time he has said that. He has claimed that on multiple occasions. And one of the big issues that archaeologists tend to have with this particular artifact is that there is no surrounding information. Like there's no corroborating sites nearby. There's no evidence of a battle. There's no, which is described in the rune inscription. They talk about having losing a couple of men. There's no camp. There's no material culture at all besides this stone. And I want to say multiple, at least one survey has been done in the area surrounding the stone in order to identify a camp or some other evidence that there was Vikings nearby, Norwegian explorers, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Um, and the one thing, so I was talking to him for a while about this, and he eventually I agreed to read and review his book, Kensington Runestone: Compelling New Evidence, by him and Nielsen. And the one thing that did jump out because, and this is went to um, this is the thing that I've always had the biggest issue with Mr. Walters' theories is this connection between Templars, Vikings, and the Freemasons. They are all apparently either the same organization or connected organizations or something like that, which may get discussed a little better in your book though.
Well, I think he's sort of off the Viking train by this point. He sort of says that that's sort of how people early on looked at it, because he wants to push it to the 17th century, and by that point the Vikings there are no Vikings.
Right.
But he does not explain how Templars, in his theory, these Templars sail out of the Atlantic ports of
Oh,
France to the New World by going by Oak Island and by
don't even.
Newport, Rhode Island, before going
Oh
back
God.
through the Great Lakes to make their way across to Minnesota without
The Rhode
leaving
Island one, the
any
Newport.
cultural material. But yeah, these are the
The,
French. Now, and then, at least in the book I read, this is straight
the
up
French.
Holy Blood, Holy Grail, Da Vinci Code.
Yeah. Yeah.
That the
Uh,
Templars had the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant. Because
oh, and the
I
Ark.
also watched the 2009 movie Holy Grail in America, which Scott was a very prominent uh, port of, which is also this whole continues his whole Kensington Runestone theory.
Okay.
That
I do have a quick correction for me.
okay,
You were right. It was Sweden.
okay,
Because I went to go find how he connects the Templars to the Vikings. Apparently, there are signs on. So this is a quote from the book. Also found signs on the Kensington Runestone that we thought were the unmistakable mark of the medieval order of Teutonic Knights. This is the introduction, so they don't
right.
actually provide evidence at this point. Teutonic Knights, an order active in the Baltic Sea and Gotland, Sweden. So Sweden, from its sanction by the Pope in 1199 and 1525 when the order became secular. The Knights Templar, also known as the Brethren of the Sword, which I'm not a Crusades scholar, so I don't know enough about this. Amalgamated with the Teutonic Knights in the Baltic in 1237 after horrendous losses in battle. So I am very much looking forward to the evidence they have to corroborate that
Well, I can tell you
mashup.
by the next book. Well, no, I'm 3 books later because the Hooked X is the next book. Then I'm the book after that. Yeah, by the time it gets to my book, that's not mentioned at all. Just
Weird, because he's really all about the Templars being
oh no, the
also
Templars.
Freemasons.
No, the Templars and the Freemasons is there. But the
Okay,
Teutonics,
so the Vikings
the
were
Vikings and Teutonics have sailed off. They're gone
okay. Well, it's also a different time period.
because you would have had scholars, but you would have had learned scholars. This is where he brings in the monks, the Cistercian monks or Cistercian monks. Those are his way out because these he brought scholars, and these are scholars who would have known older languages and such. So that's how you see. There's always an answer, and that's the thing about pseudo anything. There's always an answer. Things can't be falsified conveniently.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
Science we can find it can be falsified. We can say, oh, what we thought isn't true. So, okay,
Yep.
we're on to the next thing now. But
Yeah.
somehow in
Let's
pseudo,
follow the new line of it.
there's always a new reason. There's always,
Yeah.
you presented with information, there's always a reason why that happened.
So I'm going to read this book, and at some point I will write something up, either in a blog post or something,
Yeah, at
to
some point
review the book.
we're gonna have to have a major like Templars in America discussion, and I don't know if that's going to be like on here or maybe over on Sarah's channel, Archy Fantasies, which is
Mm.
maybe more appropriate home for things like that. Since go over to Archy Fantasies if you want to see me and Sarah watching episodes of America Unearthed and reacting to them live.
Yeah,
We've got a few episodes of those in the book,
pretty good.
so
We can all keep the backpack count.
the backpack count is
Um,
very important. So let's
it's
go
it's
ahead.
it's riveting. It
Yeah.
really is.
So let's go ahead now, and we're going to sort of wrap up the first hour now. I see it's 10 till, but I got a few minutes of stuff to talk about. Don't worry. And with that, it's sort of introducing what we're going to be doing at the top of the hour. We're introducing our new show, Rituals and Roles Recap. If you're sort of have been following us for a while, you'll notice we keep using this term rituals and roles, and so far it's been mostly where we play video games. But back in July, if you remembered, if you were there, for our S1E0, which is the podcast should be out sometime shortly after we record this, a few days or so after we record this, but it's available on video on demand right here on the ArcheoRPG YouTube channel. We had our S1E0 of our actual play tabletop role-playing campaign, where we discuss sort of the ideas behind it, some of the characters that you're going to be introduced, and how tabletop role-playing game and the world of archaeology are kind of going to blend in together. And we'll go much more into that on the other side of the hour. But this show, the purpose of this show is going to be, while we're playing the game, we are going to try to, as best as possible, to stay within the game. We're not going to metagame, we're not going to lecture on archaeological theory or anything on that. So there's good chances we're going to breeze by things that may be important or anything on that. So with that in mind, this is the purpose of this show. It's one, it's a good way to sort of get a recap episode, but two, it gives us an opportunity to sort of break down those ideas that we discussed, whether it's, colonialism, how to set up a survey, things like that. How do we identify artifacts? How do we identify a site? How much material do we need for a site? How do we interact with flora and fauna when we're going on an expedition? How do we gear up for an expedition? Like what tools and materials are we going to need when we're going to be away from home for a long period of time, and maybe away from home where we're not going to be near like hotels and things like that? Those are all real questions that we as archaeologists have to answer. So the game will give us within this game world, we'll get to sort of play with that, and so we can kind of show through gameplay what an archaeologist's life looks like. But additionally, Dungeons and Dragons sort of plays along with a lot of archaeological tropes, like a lot of popular culture, and we're going to sort of examine those as well. The hunt for treasure and all that kind of good stuff for that. And so it's going to be a back and forth. And so that's sort of going to be the purpose of this. And so we'll definitely be doing that much more on top of the hour on that. So hope you guys stick around. Now, for people in the podcast world, this is going to be different. It's going to be a separate podcast on your feed. So look for a different podcast. It'll be called Rituals and Roles Recap. So this podcast will actually be ending for you in the next few minutes. And then there'll be another podcast sitting in your feed, hopefully, called Rituals and Roles Recap. Listen to that for that there. So that way then these shows also get to sort of keep their own voice. That's what Rituals and Roll Recap is going to be. But more importantly, as you sort of saw today, with Still Digging, once we got past technical difficulties, this show now is going to be an archaeology show. We are laser focused on the world of archaeology, but that's a huge, broad world because basically, if a human interacts with a thing, an archaeologist will be there 50 years later. Uh,
Or
so,
sooner sometimes.
or sooner sometimes. So that's that's going to be our thing for that. So yeah, we're going to be much more focused. We're going to try to do a few more segments. If we had all four of us here, we probably would have had four segments today. Everyone sort of getting a chance to sort of get their piece in. But with only two of us here, we just we picked two big themes and then sort of the hey, we're doing something different at the top of the hour. On top of that, so Tom, anything you want to add?
Um, I do actually. I want to thank Scott for being a good sport about letting me review his book and sending me a copy of that. And I am actually really looking forward to this Rituals and Rolls recap,
Recap
episode
episode 0.
0, the pre-cap.
Right.
We
It's
haven't
not. Yes,
actually,
it's
we
because it's
haven't done
not going to
like,
be. Yes, yes. The recap is not a recap because we haven't had a cap to re. Yes.
yeah,
Um,
it's just a cap at this point.
right. So we're going to take about a 5 minute break at the top of the hour, 9 o'clock Eastern. We'll be back on here. Gives us a chance to redo the set. It'll be a whole different setup. You'll be
What?
yeah. It's like
I don't
magic.
even know. Maybe Amma will actually be able to join us.
Hopefully,
Hope.
that's the other thing we can do with this is see if Amma can join us. See if maybe Sarah's made it home. She's getting ready for a very long field project, so she's got some preparations to do. Um, so yeah, so we'll be at the top of the hour. So thank you all for joining us. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us at ArcheoRPG on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Our email address is archeorpg@gmail.com. If you wish to support our show, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com/archeorpg. Also, please like, share, and subscribe to help spread the word. And once again, thank you, and keep digging.
Yeah. So make sure we're not also streaming. Okay, we should be. No, we're still streaming.
Professionals. That's
We're so good at this.
you could have been watching the debate, but this is more entertaining. So
This is so
anyway,
much better.
this is why I have a script so I can do it again. Hello and welcome to the Rituals and Roles recap show, where we discuss our forthcoming actual play tabletop role-playing game. This season, our adventurers enter the jungles of Chult to play the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign, Tomb of Annihilation. I'm your host and Dungeon Master, Bill. Was that wave for me or the audience?
Woo!
Oh,
That was,
yeah,
that
that's
was
your enthusiasm.
excited.
And our
Hype.
panel will include maybe Amma, and maybe Sarah, and definitely Tom. So for today, our initial thing, we're going to sort of introduce what the hell is Ritual and Rolls? What the hell is it? See, that was your little Bernie right there for you.
Yeah.
That's about as good as I get. All right.
I don't do impressions.
We'll do a little bit about Archeo Gaming. If we get more people on, we might talk a little bit about public archaeology and how this fits into public archaeology. And if we
can
have,
still talk about that.
we can still talk about that. And at the end, if we want to introduce whatever characters we happen to have here at the time, we'll sort of do that as well. So with that, what is Rituals and Rolls? Simply, it's the Archeo RPG. See, if you look at Archeo RPG, it's like the first half is archaeology, still digging. The other part is RPG, and that's where Rituals and Rolls comes in. It's the part where you're going to see archaeologists engage with role-playing games. So if by clicking on or listening to a channel called Archeo RPG and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't know these nerds are going to start talking games, now might be the time to hit the road. And I apologize.
To be fair,
I would say please stick around. You may be surprised.
if they're here for the archaeology, they're already nerds. Let's be honest about this.
How dare you, sir?
I'm a nerd. I have heard that it is hot nerd fall. I don't think I fall into that category, but it's a thing.
Well,
Is that a mama?
it was 95 degrees today, so it was hot. Oh, do we
Sure.
have?
I was hot today, and I am a nerd.
Hold up. I think we may have a signal
We
coming
have an
in
aha?
from around the world, from sometime in the
From the
future.
future.
From the future. Hello, Friday.
It is 10 a.m. on Friday here.
What? What kind of
Mama made it.
what kind of magic is that?
Some magic. I may have dealt in some unsavory dealings to get access.
But you're not the warlock.
Yeah.
No, but I am the rogue.
She could multi-class. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
So welcome. Now we are on our Rituals and Rolls recap show right now, and I just sort of did the sort of general introductions and then sort of explained that this is the show where a group of archaeologists are going to be doing role-playing games, and that's about as far as we've gotten. So we're sort of in the introducing Rituals and Rolls right now, and how we're sort of a live play table. So for this season, so if you've been following the channel, we have been doing some video games. A lot of them doing Dungeons and Dragons, sort of as a lead up for all this. But now we are going to go live. We are going to take on Acquisition Incorporated, Critical
Okay.
Role, Dungeons and Dugons. They're all going down.
Yeah, I didn't sign up for that. Take them down. Can we go with act as a supplement too?
Fine. Hopefully at some point.
Have a critical debate on it.
Hopefully at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I mean,
Hopefully at some point in the next year we can get 100 subscribers.
Woo! Goals.
All right, all right. We'll go with the. We'll work our way up. I'm sorry. I went. I jumped over the question mark section of our underwear gnome chart of world domination.
Have we done underwear gnomes?
That's this episode of South Park with the underwear gnomes.
Oh,
They have a
oh,
chart. They have a chart that says, steel underwear, question mark, question mark, question mark, profit.
got it. I mean, step 3 is always profit.
Yeah, so it's playing on that trope of step 3 being the question mark, profit.
Got it. Hmm.
So
I mean, it's a plan.
it is a plan.
It is a plan.
So we are starting off our actual play sessions with Dungeons and Dragons because it's the behemoth. It is the juggernaut. It is the big daddy, or big mama, or big dragon of the.
It's big.
It's big, of the tabletop role-playing world. Most other systems are either direct copies of, or have deliberately not been a copy in such a way that the negative influence of Dungeons and Dragons can be felt within those systems. So
Avoid where Dungeons and Dragons should be.
exactly. So if we are going to enter in the world of archaeogaming, and we will talk about archaeogaming in a second, around the worlds of tabletop role-playing, it makes sense to first jump in to sort of the big one, the big competitor in this whole thing, and that would be Dungeons and Dragons. So that's why we're doing that. But as we move forward and hopefully have more seasons of this, we may entertain other systems. Call of Cthulhu has been one we've been talking about a lot because
More
they're
problematic than Dungeons and Dragons.
more problematic, but it definitely plays much more into real archaeology because the time periods are different. If you're playing in the 1920s, you have
True.
real world archaeology that you can draw upon
True.
as examples, as horrible, racist, bad examples. But this is Lovecraft, so we will
Yeah.
have to step into that world with both feet.
And boy, is he racist. Like, whoa.
There are other systems like this, the Fate Core system. There's the Dungeon World system, the Savage World system. There are a bunch of other ones that I can't think of off the top of my head. But yes, so we are not exclusively going to. We are not exclusively examining the world of Dungeons and Dragons. We might stick around for that as we expand, but.
Mhm.
So before sort of going in deeper into Dungeons and Dragons, should we talk about archaeogaming?
I think so. I think we need to set up our framework.
Like,
I think that's important.
why do a bunch of archaeologists want to have a nerdy show where they talk archaeology about gaming?
Because we hate ourselves and hate having hobbies. No, that's not true. I think it's important that it's understood that even the built world is an artifact in and of itself. So even if the world is virtual, it is a built world and also an artifact. If that makes any sense.
Ooh, I like that.
Write that down.
Going to go right to the
That's
source.
my one profound thought for the day.
No, I appreciate it for sure. I think that's a good direction to go in. That you can consume something and still be critical of it at the same time.
I mean, I enjoyed reading Call of Cthulhu. It was an interesting book, but it was a hell of racist. And the same. I mean, and we have discussed it on Still Digging before as well. Some of the problematic themes in Dungeons and Dragons itself is built on this colonial structure.
And before we get too much further, sorry, Hamid, you want to say something?
No, I was gonna say, like, if we could even expand it so much further, I'd love to, like, bring in, if we're gonna talk about Lovecraft. I would love to contrast that with like somebody like Ursula Le Guin or somebody who also
Yeah,
dealt with
Ooh.
fantasy.
Write that down. Put that on our ideas
yeah,
sheet. That's a future segment right there. That's that's
for
a,
sure.
that's a future segment on there. But I wanted to sort of like go back to sort of like the source for archaeogaming, Andrew
Hmm.
Reinhardt and his book Archaeogaming, and sort of quote what he defines archaeogaming. Now, Andrew Reinhardt is a PhD candidate out of York in the UK. But he sort of made his claim to fame, if anyone's ever even heard of him, from the, and you probably heard of the project at least, a few years back when there was an excavation in Arizona to dig up ET cartridges for the Atari 2600. He's the one that led that expedition. And he is sort of has modeled the initial theory behind archaeogaming. Now, when he was doing it, he was thinking strictly about the world of video games. So I'm going to sort of quote some of his ideas of what archaeogaming is. It's going to reference video games, and I guess maybe afterwards we can discuss how we plan on changing, altering his initial idea into a more analog gaming system. So to quote him, like, what is archaeogaming? Archaeogaming, broadly defined, is the archaeology both in and of digital games. Archaeology is the study of ancient and recent human past through material remains in pursuit of a broad, comprehensive understanding of human culture. Digital games are archaeological sites, landscapes, and artifacts, and the game space held within those media can be understood archaeologically as digital built environments containing their own material culture. Explored on two levels, in-game, synthetic world, and extra-game, natural world, existing at the same time using hardware as a nexus connecting the two. Boom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have. That's probably where my thing came from, so I can't really take credit for my profound statement for the day.
I'm sorry.
But I think what he says about the concept of a digital virtual world as a built environment. I think in a tabletop role playing game, it's even more complicated because there are still artifacts of the writers that will pop up in. I mean, in the especially if you're playing a module, that whole setting, all the planned interactions are all created by a person. So they are material culture. Like the interaction itself is a material is an artifact.
Right. Well, we have a rule.
Yeah.
We have a rule system. We have a prescribed sort of system of the types of materials we are there, the types of peoples within this world, the types of creatures. That's sort of all prescribed for us by the designers.
The maps.
The maps.
I would also even say that gameplay itself could be interpreted as, a methodology aligned with archaeological methods, insofar as doing, ethnographic studies, you have to, speak with local communities to learn more information about, your quote unquote quest or what it is that, you're there to do. So I think that's something as well. It could, I don't think it's touched upon in the initial description, but I think it fits within that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and similar to a video game, the player is not fully in control of the game. They're the
More so than the game, than a video game.
more
So,
so, but they are still not because there's the other player, there's the dungeon master, there's the writers of this material, there's the entire sort of cultural pressure and lore, the sort of built experience of what is called Dungeons and Dragons, and the social expectations of what that means for that, and there's the other players at the table. So one person isn't this is a combined storytelling. It's a mutual storytelling that's occurring here, where no
so
one person is sort of dictating,
right.
except me.
Out of the book, kind of.
Yes.
Um, oh, I had something real good and I lost it.
Oh no.
um, I think I think it's interesting also the difference between um, doing ethnography or archaeogaming within a digital world versus in a tabletop world is that because in a tabletop setting it's much more malleable and your the artifact or not the artifact the I guess this so that it's an oral history. No,
Mm.
that's not quite right. I think what we will be creating will be a document by broadcasting the storytelling. Sorry, stay with me. But the fact that we are actually influencing the story as we're going and pointing it in different directions through active gameplay is interesting because and we will have to. I know a goal like this, we have to really dive into the critical theory around it. So noticing our own biases as we're creating the story and analyzing the document that we are the document being the game rules
Mm.
and module, especially as we when we come back to the rituals and roles recap to kind of
Absolutely.
unpack everything that we did the previous week.
Footnotes.
Yeah, we will have to actually take at least I'm going to have to take notes while we're doing this to
Well,
make sure it
you should be
makes
taking
sense.
notes anyway while we're playing so that you know what your character is up to
I
and
do,
doing.
I do, I do take notes.
And I was just thinking, there is material, there is physical material culture with this. There are
Mm.
books, there are dice, there are miniatures.
Mm.
There's the other accoutrement. There are the T-shirts. There's the if we are not playing at a table with real material, there's a computer and a software that we are having to interact with, and so
Virtual
forth.
environment.
A virtual environment. So a lot of those materials are still going to be there. With this, the difference is the true mechanics of the game. The true game engine will be our four brains churning away with the utilizing the inputted material. Uh,
Yeah, it's this one's complicated to wrap your head around.
Mm.
but
I'm really
another
not gonna. I'm gonna have to.
and
I've
another
only read
interesting
about
thing.
half a Reinhardt book so far. I gotta finish it.
And another interesting
Mm.
thing about the way we're doing this, by live streaming it so that our audience can enjoy it as we're doing this, it also allows for sort of some of the foibles that can happen with an at-home game from occurring, sort of
Mm.
the collective memory that come into place, the collective remembrance that might happen. That sort of is the beginning phases of turning events into legend. Begins an event, becomes a story, becomes a myth, becomes a legend.
Yeah,
Because you're sort of when you in the constant retelling, the stories become different every time. We're creating a document which will be there, and you can watch us. And he's like, "No, you said that. We didn't say that. Yes,
as,
you did."
as many times as you want, you can rewatch it.
As
That
much
very much recalls Critical Role when they always say, oh, the fans will remind us. Or you get the same thing in the Adventure Zone where the cast just chooses to forget
yeah.
and prefers to, but knows the fact that the internet is there to remind them every step of the way.
Because that's a weird, unique thing that happens with the whole rise of these sort of broadcast actual play games. Is that you're no longer in your living room or in the game room or down at the bar. You're doing it in front of an audience, and that audience is paying attention to you, and they will hold you to task because the
They're
audience,
building the wiki.
well, because they're also building their world. They're listening to us perform, for lack of a better term. We are on stage, we are actors, and we
Yeah.
are performing, and they are listening
Yep.
to that. And in the theater of the mind, they are creating their own version of our story.
Right. I think also, especially in the case of Critical Role and Adventure Zone, which are wildly popular. Um, with their own with the creation of their own merchandise and fan fiction and fan art and just the I mean the concepts that are or not the concepts, but the material culture is being created as a result of a made up imaginary virtual world is like the cyclical nature of it for archaeology is
Yeah.
kind of, it's hard to wrap your head around.
Oh, I bet Sarah's gonna be bad she's not here for this, because the concept of fan art and fan fiction, I think, is really interesting, and the relationship between the creator community and the fan community is something I'm sure that it has been studied and is continued to be studied, and really fascinating relationship.
And that's something that we're hoping to have as well as we grow. We want to have more interaction with our fans and our community, and we want to grow a community. This is not as much for us. Hey, I'm talking to the person in the car right now. I don't want to get distracted while driving. You know,
Oh, that's right. I should.
we have an entire, we hope to be, we are building slowly beginning to build a fan base. Those who are listening to this on the first run, you're the first tier, you're the vanguard of this. You're the ones a year from now at Archeo RPG Con are going to be able to say, I was there, I'm OG. How many people are going to be claiming they were listening to these original broadcasts when we were looking at the channel and we only had like 2 people watching us? But they're going to have about 100 people claiming that they were those 2 people.
Dream big. Gotta dream big.
Hey, one day we'll have an entire empire built on these characters.
Hey, go behind the scenes now. We're currently at 31 subscribers to our YouTube channel. Thank you all.
Yay!
So we are on the march now to 100. So we are on the march to 100 right now. That's sort of the first mini goal. We just keep going, and then we knock PewDiePie out of the way, which is good because he needs to be knocked out of the way. That's right. We're starting wars with everybody. It's what you can do when no one's watching you.
Well, somebody eventually watches us. We usually get about 100 or so views.
Yeah, no.
I don't know how many of that is us rewatching it. But, I mean, I don't. But
I don't watch my own product.
I can't listen to my voice. It's weird. I'm weird. You're listening to me, it sounds weird, and you know it.
Hey, I have to edit these things for the podcast, so I have to listen to myself over and over and over again.
So sorry.
And how many times I say and go before talking. Yeah, it's not fun at all.
But it's a learning process, though, too. I think I've gone back and listened and definitely cringed a few times myself. But I think it's a good way to hold myself accountable and to move forward and to grow.
Yeah.
So, sort of, that's the briefest thing of Archeo gaming. Like a lot of these things, we'll be fleshing these things out. This is the ultimate way you shouldn't be doing science. We are going to experiment to learn. Like we're going to learn this.
Yeah, it's an observational science and interdisciplinary science.
Yeah, we're not going in completely blind, but we are kind of blind. But that's also part of the fun with this. I mean, this thing like any good science, like any good experiment, and this is truly an experiment. This could absolutely fall flat on its face. This could absolutely become something that we right now have no idea about. It's going to go into a different direction entirely. That may be an awesome, cool direction, but we aren't thinking about that right now. It may be something else.
As long as we... What?
I said, I'm just here for D&D.
As long as we hit the markers of we play some D&D, and then we also think about the structure of the game we just played, I think I'll be happy.
And
those are really my only goals.
And that is the other absolutely, and I've said this a few times already tonight, absolutely important part about this particular show, Ritual and Rolls Recap, is that this is the place for us to get the nerdy archaeology talk in place. While we're playing the
Yeah.
game, we are going to play the game. You guys will be in
So
character.
we can
I will
keep
be
the
all the other.
high-minded social theory to
Right.
this
You
stuff.
will be Tomag. You will be Ty. I will be everybody
Yay.
else.
Except for Sarah.
Except for Arnell. But I do get to be mascot.
You do get to be mascot.
So I got like a
And-
week now
and-
to worry about my voices.
And as we know, many other animal voices.
Yes. The downside to having like a druid and a warlock with some weird stuff. There's a lot of talking to animals, so I got to come up with animal conversations.
They can all be the same voice if you want, by the way.
No. I will try to roll out different voices. They will be different voices in my mind. You will hear the exact same thing every time.
Wait, have you guys heard about what is it, the Matt Mercer effect?
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen discussions about that. Yeah.
Fill me in here.
I can jump in. So I think the basic concept is the fact that people have come to expect things out of their own GMs, or at least expect at a certain level, and that it's of both gameplay but also performance from their GMs, and it's become troublesome for a lot of people.
So Critical Role is both making D&D super popular and great again, and also, I'm sorry I used that phrasing. Is making it's bringing it to a new level and making it super popular, but also ruining it for everybody at a normal table.
Well, don't worry. I'm gonna say it right now. If you're expecting me to be Matt Mercer, I'm expecting you to be as comical as Sam Riegel and as emotive as Liam O'Brien.
He's from here. I can't be that moody. I just can't be that moody.
But the Critical Role is a good example for us. This is our behind-the-scenes pep talk right now. Watch Campaign 1, Episode 1, and then watch like last week's show. The difference between the things.
Stark difference.
And these are professionals. So no,
Professional voice.
we're gonna make stumbles early on. I'm letting also it's a secret now to the fans listening right now. We won't be perfect from Episode 1. I'm just laying that out right now. So we will learn as we go along. We will get better in terms of our characters. Once we start getting that sweet Patreon money in, we can improve our quality for everybody here, so that we can deliver you a better product.
Mm.
I think I need to at least invest in like a camera, not attached to my computer.
Same.
And we're gonna need a really long extension cable we could send over to Amma to plug her right into the internet.
Yeah.
It's coming. I swear it's coming. It's just.
It will hopefully be here by next week.
I was told 2 weeks, but if I have to, I will come back and I will do what I can to make arrangements.
Okay. With Dark Forces, better left alone.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about D&D, what we're going to be doing, Dungeons and Dragons. We talked a little bit about what Archeo gaming is, but there's sort of a different aspect of archaeology we're getting involved with. It's the reason we have an audience watching and listening to us right now, and that has to do with public engagement. So I will let our two illustrious public archaeologists jump in from here.
Kinda.
To sort of take over, like how we are hoping to use rituals and roles as a tool for engagement for public archaeology.
Yeah.
You want to start, or should I?
I guess I'll go ahead and start here. So okay. So archaeology is science of any kind is completely worthless if you're not disseminating that information out into the public and making it useful for people. And by using archaeology to kind of break down, cultural phenomena like role playing games and Dungeons and Dragons, and kind of pointing out pointing out all the warts and imperfections in this thing that a lot of people love. You are Oh, I just went sideways on that one. You are kind of breaking it down into its parts, and kind of exposing people to anthropology and archaeology helps. It just gets people more engaged with that with that way of thought and critical thinking, and um, just kind of realizing that where the things that they use and say and um, actions that they do, where do they come from? How do they affect other people? Because I mean, archaeology is by definition a part of anthropology. I know there's a lot of Brits out there who are going to ignore or will disagree with me wholeheartedly, but I don't care. I'm an American.
Oh yeah, I forgot I haven't done my one yet.
And I'm gonna
And
pull.
Tristan, we're talking
I'm gonna-
about you.
Yeah, Tristan. Archaeology is anthropology. Deal with it. But the point I'm trying to get at here as is we want the dungeon this podcast to turn into something that makes archaeology more accessible, anthropology more accessible. Did I freeze?
You're kind of. Well, you're back now.
But my voice coming still.
Yeah, your
Okay.
voice still coming. Keep talking.
Okay. We just wanted to make it something that makes things like this more accessible, and it makes shutting down pseudo archaeology like Ancient Aliens and like a lot of the stuff that Scott Walter does, and I don't know, Kurt Von Daniken. Well, I won't put. I'll go as far as saying I won't put Scott Walter in the same bag as Kurt Von Daniken, because
No,
he is.
that's
Wow,
straight
wow.
up. That's
That's might be the nicest thing I can say. But the principles that those theories are built on are inherently racist. It's you're discounting other cultures just because you, you don't think they have their you're saying aliens built the pyramids is discounting ancient Egyptians and saying that they didn't have the capabilities to do these truly impressive things, and they are even more interesting to be built by humans than they are to be built by some all-powerful extraterrestrial force. And I know at least early on, the other kind of cool thing about this project in particular, I know early on we had discussed eventually writing our own rules to have role-playing archaeology itself, and making that available in some manner for classrooms and museums and things like that
which
to
we have.
make this stuff fun.
Yeah, we still have not given up on that idea. That just has been pushed
No,
back. That is maybe
yeah,
phase 3 or phase 4 of the rollout.
yeah. We need to actually like break it down, see what actually needs to be changed, and then we can put our own rules together.
We must first perform the vivisection upon Dungeons and Dragons so that we can understand and rebuild it and make it stronger.
That's a beautiful word picture. By beautiful, I mean a little disturbing. Because vivisection. You. Sorry, Emma, I kind of just steamrolled you on that one. Please add
No,
things.
no, I think you covered a lot of where I was coming from as well. And so far as active engagement, using a platform that people are familiar with to talk about something that maybe they're not quite as familiar with, or to use it as a platform of engagement where you have people that might be interested in one or the other or both, and use that as a means of starting a dialogue. As much as I see this as a project that we are going to input, our thoughts and our experiences into, I also see it as a really exciting opportunity to interact with people as well around the world and to hear their own experiences and see maybe not only how we can get other people to think about things differently, but how maybe we can think about gaming and archaeology different as well.
Very
Yeah,
good. Very
that
good.
that the public engagement part is definitely. I mean, making this as interactive as possible is something that is actually pretty important to me. I know, and I think to everybody else as well. But like, if you're watching this with us now, be active in chat, ask us questions. If you're watching it later, we're all on Twitter. You can email the Archeo RPG account. So it's archeorpg@gmail.com. We kind of plugged it in the.
And point to all of our platforms. We are available on all
Yeah,
those
we're
platforms.
on everything. Um, but send us questions. We actually do want to hear from you and engage with you. If we say a bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense, ask us about it. I think I know we're like plugging a whole bunch of other podcasts now. But um, ologies,
Don't worry,
the
I'll
whole
edit this out in
theme.
post.
You don't even have to. No, you don't have to. I think these are good science communication platforms, and
we are
they're worth your time.
we are
They're
all
not
one
doing the
big
same thing we
family.
are, so whatever.
No.
Um, but the whole theme, Ellie Ward's theme for the whole show is ask smart people stupid questions. I don't believe there is such a thing as a stupid question. If you don't understand it, ask me a question about it.
Or in my case, ask a stupid person a smart question. I will answer
Oh, says
it.
the person in the doctorate program.
I don't claim any semblance of
Just a real good faker.
Mhm.
I
All right.
mean, the imposter syndrome thing is real.
Yes. So, with our sort of last few minutes we have right now, maybe we could kind of give folks a little tease, a little preview, as it were, of
Oh no.
some of the characters they're going to come and interact with over the next few weeks, months with that. So, would either of you two like to give sort of the elevator pitch version
I'm
of
sharing my screen, by the way.
It's not showing up on the.
it's not showing
It's
up the.
not.
Hmm.
Oh, shoot. Let me try again.
I mean, it's showing up on our Skype call. It's just not showing up on the stream.
Oh, shoot.
I'm not sure why that is.
Hold on, maybe there's something else
Yeah.
I can hold
I put
on.
you on the spot there. I'm sorry.
But these are character models pending to change. Um,
Absolutely. I would love to do some colored versions. And I just got a list of some requests in regards to art. I didn't realize they were in the Google Doc folder, so my apologies.
there we
I
go.
will get on that then. Ooh, look at me.
So there we go. I'll make it a little bigger right now. We'll cover our faces up so we can sort of
Yeah, you don't.
see a view of the three main protagonists in the upcoming tale.
Yeah. Um,
Well, four main
yeah.
protagonists, really.
Yeah. I mean, we all know that Wolfie is
So,
is
Tom, would you like to introduce Tomag?
you can see that I was super creative on the name. um, um, so Tomag, I don't know how much of the setup do we want to do here?
I
Do you
would,
want to do you want to talk about our home game at all, or
yeah, you could talk about the home game basically up until you stop playing it, and then
okay?
the intervening years we can figure out as we go along.
Yeah. So Tomag is a Goliath barbarian, and during the home game, I um, chose the Path of the Totem, the bear, which is super fun. But as during which I tripped real hard on bee venom, and found my spirit animal, the great bear Smokey, um, and was forced to fight his avatar and create a totem from the carcass, which Ty totally stole my kill on. Um, but so the vest that you see there is much cooler now, and part of that path is you have some physical transformation. So all my our illustrious GM decided that all of my tattoos are now fuzzy. And I think I have sharp teeth or something too.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
remember what
your teeth are a little more. Your canines are a little more pronounced.
they're a little pointy. But I've got a big old hammer, a maul that I think I've decided I'm going to refer to as compelling argument. Um,
I
um,
thought, well, actually, another good name would be Only You, because only
only
you
you.
can
Oh,
prevent.
can
That
it
could,
though?
and that could be your go ahead line for kills.
Hmm. I'm gonna have to think on that one. There's a way to do this. I don't know. I don't know
There,
what the
there's
what
there's
the
there's
what
good
the
pun potential
punchline
there,
is.
but
There is.
but yeah, well,
I'm gonna seriously consider this. And then in the intervening years, I'm gonna come in.
yeah, we'll
Do we want to talk
stop
about the
this.
intervening
Nah,
years?
we can do that next week.
Okay, so that's where that's
This
where
is
we
where you
left off.
started. This is where Tomog levels 1 through 3. We will see him again next week at level 5. What happened in between? We will learn that as we go along.
Yeah.
Pacing. It's all
Oh.
about pacing.
Mm.
Ty Vinder, our
Mm.
mysterious.
Oh.
A true man of mystery.
I don't know if I would paint him that way, but no, just kidding.
Does he not like a good tuxedo?
I mean,
I could draw him in that, yeah.
it's a little mysterious.
I could see that. No, it was interesting because I joined the group a little bit late and after a couple characters had come and gone. And I know you guys were looking for a rogue to join the party, and so that's kind of originally how I came across or kind of made him to fit that kind of slot, so to speak. But so far, I've kept him a little bit aloof. Since he is a drow, he has that kind of quality about him because I haven't really quite resolved the drow within the D&D world, but and especially for him being one kind of out of the Underdark, it's been something that's new for me to play. So he's been snarky and reserved and judgmental and very much out for himself and grabbing what he can and looting places when he could find them. Came away with a couple of really nice objects. I hope we can still keep those for the campaign.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
did you get my email about the other new one?
Email or was it
through the
Discord?
Discord channel, yeah.
I did
And if you
see
join
that.
our Patreon,
You can join
you'll have
access to the Discord
Yeah.
channel.
yeah.
Actually, I believe I did respond to that, and then I gave you his backstory, and I think I tried to include that in there. So
Okay, all right.
it's for your consideration.
Okay, well,
Since we can't really talk about that.
He still has that item.
Excellent. Excellent.
So, but there's one character fault I would like to put on Tyvinder. We could say this now. It's not really a fault, it's more of a tick.
Mm.
Because Drowls are so uncommon as adventurers in in Faerun, the continent that we're on in Dungeons and Dragons, the Forgotten Realms, everyone seems at one point or other to ask you if you know Dritz. Dritz,
Working the races of Elric.
the very popular character from a long series of Dungeons and Dragons books. Who was a Drow ranger. who's like the most, basically, of the last
Two
20 years,
scimitars.
possibly the most famous Dungeons and Dragons character of the last 20 years. So,
Yeah.
so, so I'm just now picturing sort of that sort of like, you might hear that question a lot, and this may not be the first time you've heard that question a lot. So just think about how you want to handle that you've heard that question a lot.
No, I think that's a fun tick to kind of build in. I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah. That'll be. Oh my god.
You'll be glad to get into the jungle where,
Mm.
until somebody comes out of the woods. But hey, are you? No,
Don't you
not.
even.
Oh, that's gonna be brilliant. What was I gonna ask? Oh yeah, I was thinking potentially, and I don't know how far I want to push this, giving him a soft accent, but I'm not quite Liam O'Brien ready.
Yes, but you do you, and if you want to, if you want to give your character and the embodiment of your character a little bit of a accent to go along with it, go ahead. You're not going to get any
Excellent.
qualms from me, since I'm going to be trying to do accents to the NPCs, and I will be flailing up here all the time. So don't be afraid about trying to do an accent. All of you watching and listening, be kind to us, please. Please be kind. So, and since Sarah couldn't make it here today, the very briefest of introductions about RNL and Mascot. RNL
Seemingly.
is our, as you can see from the picture here, they are a human. They are our warlock, and they have a companion. Early on in the adventures with Tomog, a little before Ty came into the picture, they had to rescue someone from a den of goblins, and then in there were a number of wolves, and she was able to communicate. They were able to communicate with these wolves, and there was two wolves there. One of them sort of didn't attack the party, but then quickly lost interest and ran away. But another one stayed, and the two of them have formed a bond. And by now, I'm sure that bond's even stronger now. He has the name Mascot, but there's a whole long lineage to that, and I don't have that in front of me at the moment.
What is it?
So-
Mascot von Wolfie Sama. Something.
We'll get his official.
There was a couple more names.
We'll do his official title next week if we have like a nice, if we have character portraits.
Gonna work on it. I promise.
I no pressure,
No rush.
pressure
As you have
whatsoever.
time.
If we have
We know
them,
your
we'll
regrets.
post them on social media, and if not, you have to be patient and use
Yep.
your imagination.
It'll look something kind of like this. Maybe.
And through different magical means, both Arnel and Tomog are able to communicate with Mascot, so we sort of learned his voice. And
Although I think we left it off with Mascot being a little peeved with me because of the bee venom tripping.
Well, this would have been years ago. We'll see whether or not Mascot still holds a grudge from years in the past. Actually, episode one's going to see how many people still hold grudges.
Ooh. Oh. This could be fun.
Yeah,
Or terrible.
fun
I
can.
think I'm going to go. The voice I'm going to do for Toma is probably something along the same lines as you may be familiar with in the Adventure Zone, with just gruffness. Like that's.
Yes.
We can have a gruff off. It'll be fun.
Oh my god.
No. Mascot talks to you like this, dear
Oh.
human. Please don't walk away from the party again. We don't want to lose you this time.
You abandoned the accusation was you abandoned the pack,
You
and I felt that is the worst I've ever felt from like a comment from an imaginary character.
Oh.
Human, you have abandoned the pack. So yeah, that's a little hint of the of Mascot. But I think with this then, we'll go ahead and wrap things up for tonight. Maybe I can catch the last few minutes of the debates that are going on right now.
Still can't bring myself to watch them.
Or I'll just watch the aftermath afterwards. Any final words?
Come back next week. We're gonna do some live play stuff, and it's gonna be super cool.
I'm going to try and get my internet worked out by then.
Yeah, you can do it. I am certain of it.
For next week, remember, Ritual and Rolls lives, first run, it lives on Twitch. So we will be at www.twitch.tv/ArcheoRPG, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time next Thursday, the 19th, which will be Friday the 20th at 9 a.m. Japanese Standard Time.
We know all of your classmates are also watching this.
Definitely. All one of them.
Huge cohort.
Okay. So with all that, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us at ArcheoRPG on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Our email address is archeorpg@gmail.com. If you wish to support our show, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com/archeorpg. Also, please like, share, and subscribe to help spread the word. And remember, this and everything else we do on this channel is a product of the ArcheoRPG Collective. Thank you. Good night. I don't have a good ending line for this show yet. It's the first episode, all right? Give me a break.
When in doubt, it's ritual.
When in doubt, it's ritual.
Something rolls.
Yes.
Step 3, profit.
Profit. All right. We will see you all in the imaginary world next week. Goodbye.